I'll do some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This is my boomstick. Here's Johnny.
I have to return some videotapes.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hello and welcome to All Things Horror. My name is Ben and I'm joined here with Matt. If you are unfamiliar with the show, each week we choose a movie to break down and review, give our honest opinions and rate it from 1 to 10. This week we're going to be talking about the iconic Halloween from 1978. But before we do, let's take a quick look at the trailer.
The one, the only, the classic Halloween. Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago. Michael? Halloween.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I think he'll come back.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Totally charted.
Just talk.
Sure. The only reason she babysits is to have
Halloween. Halloween. The night he came home.
On a black and unholy Halloween night years ago, little Michael Myers brutally slaughtered his sister in cold blood. But for the last 15 years, town residents have rested easy knowing that he was safely locked away in a mental hospital. Until tonight. Tonight, Michael returns to the same quiet neighbourhood to relieve his grisly murder again and again and again. For this is a night of evil. Tonight is Halloween. And we have got the one and only John Carpenter directing.
Right here now, with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, John.
Co-writer was Debra Hill. We got a very good main cast of Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasence, as well as Nick Castle and Nancy Loomis, and a total runtime of 1 hour and 31 minutes. This isn't the first John Carpenter film, is it? I think we did The Thing a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, we did our like kind of top fives as well, I think, didn't we? Or we certainly talked about all the ones we liked.
Yeah, I've noticed. I don't know whether we mentioned this in the Thing episode, but he likes to reuse a lot of his cast members.
Yeah, it's kind of like a company, like a student company of friends and people you can get for free and other kind of filmmakers, that kind of collective. Yeah, it's really good. It's funny you mentioned Debra Hill as well. It's not like a hard and fast rule, because I do like some of the other ones, but generally, if it's Debra Hill and John Carpenter, I think they're the better ones. It's like a good rule of thumb if people were just kind of getting into John Carpenter. She doesn't just write really good female characters, which she does, and kind of she also just, I think, makes the whole film kind of a little bit more realised, in terms of there's clearly not just John Carpenter's voice in there. So she's obviously a really, really good collaborator, or was a really good collaborator with him until they went their separate ways. So yeah,
I've got down a few films that they co-wrote together. I know they did obviously this one. They also did The Fog, Escape from New York, and Escape from LA, and they both co-wrote and produced Halloween 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who kind of reconnect with and work with again, and trust, and kind of have a similar kind of creative aesthetic. Everybody kind of doing a little bit of everybody else's job. So I always think that's really good. Like that, obviously it really is an independent film. I think people need to remember that. It's like a really independent, low budget, and I know you'll probably talk about the budget, and earlier on I just like wanted to say that it would have made the equivalent these days of 150 million. That's how much roughly it would have made, which is incredible, off $300,000. Like that's what, kind of in today's money. But yeah, like Tommy Lee Wallace did so much. He was literally one of the 5 shapes, or 6 people who played the shape. He did some of the set design, he did the editing, and obviously he made my favourite of the series, Halloween 3. Mine, and I'm hoping other people like it too. I know not as many as the kind of OG Michael Myers films.
That was going to be a question I was going to ask, apart, because it's got quite a big franchise. I was going to say, apart from this one, what is your next favourite Halloween film?
Yeah.
Would that be right? Halloween 3?
Yeah, I think that as a standalone, if I look at them both as standalones, Halloween 3, the first one, I've got a soft spot for the silly Danielle Harris ones, 4 and 5. I think they've actually aged quite well, like they're quite fun. H2O is good in a kind of Scream-esque way. Other than that, I'm not, the first Rob Zombie one brings the sort of fear back a little bit.
That one got a lot of hate, but I actually really liked that one.
I think the first one
did a good job.
I thought it was alright. I thought it was good. Yeah. The sort of the Danny McBride, David Gordon Green ones, I actually don't mind the last ends, or at least the first half an hour of it, where like Corey's backstory is actually pretty cool. Is actually quite reminiscent of the early one, of the first one. So yeah, I have a bit of an up and down. I've seen them all, but I wouldn't say I love the series like I would say. Like, I'm probably more of a fan of Friday the 13th as a series, but again, that has some clunkers and some amazing ones too. But Halloween 3. To answer your question, that's mine. If all the others disappeared and I still had Halloween 3, I'd be really happy.
A lot of people don't know, myself included, because I haven't seen it. I mean, I know about it, but obviously Michael Myers is the main antagonist in all the Halloween films apart from that one. There's no direct connection. No,
he just pops up on TV in a bar, an advert for the film. That's the only thing you see of him. Back when I think the plan was it was going to be an anthology series of different films, and in a strange sort of way, Halloween Ends leads to that as well, because they could have gone full Corey and kind of not had like old man Michael Myers in it. They could have gone that full way and just had a completely different I mean, not a completely different story because it would have still been like a slasher or whatever, but yeah, I guess that would have made it into like a hard reboot, and then everybody would have been like, no, it's not my Halloween. So I don't know. They've had so many people put their thumbs in the pie at this point. It's really hard. There's so many retcons, origin changes, story changes. Are they related? Are they not related? So many different things. Like,
yeah, there's a few different ways that you can watch them. The franchise, isn't there? You could either watch
ridiculous.
them all, or you could go 1, 2, H2O, or 1, 2, and then the latest.
I thought
three,
you read them like in terms of like understand them, but you mean in like in terms of the order you watch them in? Sorry, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways you could watch the order.
Ah, okay, right.
Because I think that's what H2O did. I think when they got to that one, they wanted to do the same as what we've just done now in the latest, the last 3, where they've kind of disregarded all the ones coming up to it, and it's a straight follow-on from either 1 or 2.
Right. So not just do like I do and just pick them at random, and then be like, I quite like 4 and 5, and 3's my favourite, and then I like one of the 2 Rob Zombie ones, and one of the I would, yeah. If you were following my sort of approach, then yeah, you wouldn't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think I will say though, I think 4 and 5, I kind of watched them and they just washed over me the first time I saw them. I watched them a couple of times in the last couple of years and I've really enjoyed them. I think Danielle Harris's Jamie character is actually really good. It's a good little story. She does really well. So yeah, and I mean, you've also got those ones where Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't want anything to do with the films as well. Like, she wants to kind of get away from him. And then when she comes back with the later ones, it's like she's kind of back in the fold. So there's a lot of ups and downs, isn't there, in this series? It's almost impossible for us to kind of... I suppose in a way it's almost better we're not going over all the Halloween films and all John Carpenter's films, because we'd be doing about a 7-hour podcast.
I don't think this is a spoiler, but it's in Halloween 2. It might be the end of Halloween 2, where they then hit on the fact that Laurie is Michael's sister. Is that right? Yeah, sister.
And then she isn't again in some of the later ones, and then she is again. And personally, I think that's just like, as a writer, trying to tie a bow around things and have it so it makes sense for him to be constantly after her or her family. And then we go into all the kind of mystical stuff. There's a podcast that I listen to, I can't remember what it is, and they go through all the different drafts of films, and one that they did, I think it was about 4 episodes, where they went through every single draft of the different Halloweens and all the different people trying out writing different stories for it. And the thing is, it's gone in so many different directions, it's almost impossible to find continuity, because I don't think there is any. And it doesn't matter really. I think for me, try and look. I just think with this series, I try and look at them in isolation and think, did I enjoy it? And just take it on, it on that, and look at each one, because in a way that's what people did with Halloween. They didn't go like, another John Carpenter slasher film or whatever. They just, because there was there wasn't really anything to compare it against.
Just to jump back to the cast and crew again. When I said, and I know we probably spoke about this on the thing, but for people that haven't heard it, where he tends to use the same cast. I know Jamie Lee Curtis was in The Fog. Donald Pleasence was in Escape from New York. Nick Castle, who plays old Michael, he actually co-wrote Escape from New York and Escape from LA with John Carpenter. And Nancy Loomis, girl that plays Annie, she was in Assault from Precinct 13, and she was also in The Fog as well.
Oh yeah, and Charles Cyphers from Assault on Precinct 13, who's the sheriff in this. He's really underrated, and he makes a really good comeback in the modern ones as well. He's really good in that. He's one of the more like grounded characters in that. He's not kind of shrieking and OTT. He's really good. And PJ Souls in this from Rock and Roll High School, the Ramones film. She's always effervescent and kind of bouncing around in films around this time. She's got the famous "see anything you like" line. Donald Pleasence. It's funny, isn't it, to see his mania and overacting. It grows as the film goes on and as the series goes on. He gets bigger and bigger, and because it could have been, and again, this is it could have. I believe it was offered to Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and Donald Pleasence took the role and was like, I take it because my daughter really liked the music from Precinct 13.
Huh.
That was it. That was his only reason. I don't think he was that interested in the content of the film.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he stuck with it, didn't he? He was there right till he passed. And beyond, actually, they've used him. They've used him since he passed, haven't they? Like little clips of him and
yeah.
Like,
In the newer ones.
Yeah, like doubles of him, and I'm sure he pops up in H2O, or there's flashbacks and all kinds. So yeah, he lives on.
I found this quite funny that Debra Hill, she was actually born in a place called Haddonfield in New Jersey.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, this Haddonfield is set in Illinois, so it's a fictional town. But I just found it quite hilarious that she is actually from Haddonfield.
This is a bit like one of those places where it's like, we're going to film this in California, but let's just throw a load of leaves around and we'll make it into sort of middle America. It's like, this is ridiculous, but I was listening to a podcast about Carry On Camping, and it was supposed to be in the summer, and they were painting the grass green to kind of make it see, while you could see their breath in some of the scenes, and it was supposed to be in the middle of summer and it was the middle of winter. And this reminded me of this, where it was like, just throw a load of leaves around and get creative with it, and we're in Haddonfield, Illinois.
I did remember reading somewhere, I think Robert Englund actually helped throw all the leaves around.
Yeah, I read that too.
On the set.
Yes.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, that's not one of my trivia. I'm going for my thing of just one piece of trivia that makes no sense whatsoever this week. So you're going to be the trivia guy.
Yeah, again, I kind of overloaded myself on the trivia, so I think I might have scattered some throughout the plot. Yeah. Well, it's hard not to. I mean, there's some things that you might just find interesting also would classify as trivia, wouldn't it? It's like how Dean Cundy went on to do cinematography for like Back to the Future 3 and one of my favourites, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Mandalorian, Jurassic Park. Like that's trivia, but also I've just picked out films that it interests me that somebody who made this would be also kind of kind of go on and do. Like he, with that fluid sort of what you would call Steadicam, but I think it was called Panaglide, Panaglide camera, which we'll talk about more when we start the film, when we're talking about the film. Like he's as much of an innovator cinematography wise as John Carpenter is for like music and the way it's filmed and setting those shots in the first place, and just and the story and everything. But like Dean Cundy, what an amazing cinematographer. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for actually. What do you think of the cinematography? Because I think this must have been one of the first films to actually do like a point of view kind of camera where you see it from the killer's point of view.
Those Panaglide cameras were really new and like just kind of...
You kind of see it through his mask as well though. And
that point of view, it's like really fluid, isn't it?
Yeah. And also to add to the fact where you can hear him breathing, so not only is his point of view, you see him through his literal eye holes, and you can also hear him breathing inside the mask. Well, that's it.
And I thought, wow, how creative. Oh, I've got a question for you about the music, because you're the music expert.
Am I?
Well, you make all the music, you know all the music, you sing the theme tune, write the theme tune, and you certainly know more about music than me. Has there ever been a movie or a more iconic movie where character and the theme are linked together? I had one, Darth Vader and the Imperial March and John Williams, but I can't think of anything other than John Carpenter's Halloween theme and Michael Myers being so perfectly linked.
No. The only thing that can come to mind is maybe Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Again, like from the point of view kind of thing, when you see it from their point of view, or when you know that they're close, you hear
Yeah.
So when you hear that, you know he's coming. So I don't know, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is iconic in its own way. Probably really influenced by this.
Yeah.
So like,
definitely.
It probably comes back to that, doesn't it? It's
That's
funny.
what I was thinking of with the point of view camera. You know, I would imagine they took a huge influence. That and Evil Dead with the spirit coming through the woods, and you know.
Again, like none
they
of
all
these
came after this, so I would imagine they all kind of took inspiration from this film.
Yeah, none of them. The ones that were really successful, none of them were like kind of, had a massive production company throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars at them. They were all. It just kind of inspired other creative people, like Sam Raimi and different kind of creatives to kind of do their own spin on it and take it in a different direction.
Do you?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And I was going to ask. Do you remember the first time you watched this film?
Do you know what? I don't.
No.
Do you?
I couldn't tell you an exact age, but I do remember growing up. It was on TV an awful lot, especially around the Halloween holiday. But it was always on kind of late night, so I'd stay up late and watch it. It was one of my favourite films. I like to stay up late and watch. Yeah. But a lot. I watched this film a lot.
How many times do you reckon you've seen it?
Oh God, I don't know.
Approximately.
It's one of those films as well that I do try and I haven't the last couple of years, but I do try and watch it every Halloween. I think a lot of people do that. Yeah,
because you'll never guess what I watch every Halloween. Halloween 3.
Oh, is it? Oh, screw the original. You like the third one?
Yeah, I just sit there watching that every year. At Christmas, I tend to watch all the Silent Night, Deadly Nights, which is a slog. Some of them are great. Some of them are great. Some of them are greatly terrible, and then some of them are just terrible. So, like when you commit to watching the whole thing, and I did this when I had to be isolated from my wife at Christmas, and I was upstairs. I was downstairs. She was upstairs. I literally just watched all of them in a darkened room over one Christmas. I was so miserable. But yeah, it kept me busy, kept me occupied. But yeah, I think for Halloween, I usually watch Halloween 3. For some reason, one year I went to the cinema and watched Jason X on Halloween. I think it might have come out on Halloween for some reason.
Okay.
Or they re-released it or something.
I think the third one is the only one I actually haven't watched. I think I was kind of put off of it because Michael wasn't in it. So growing up, I was like, Michael went in it. I don't want to watch that.
That's not fair. I'm not watching it. Yeah. I'm protesting against it.
It seems to be the last few years that everyone keeps speaking out about it now. I've never really heard much about it until the last few years.
Do you know, you're right. You are totally right. And you go to conventions, there's much more merchandise for it. I used to find it really hard to get, I quite like wearing Halloween 3 t-shirts and things. I think last year I got a 3-pack of the things the children are wearing when they're trick-or-treating in Halloween 3. I'm just trying to look at it. And yeah, the trick-or-treaters, the Toonie Terrors ones, and I got that. And I was like, wow, there's loads of Halloween 3 stuff around. I think it is starting to get appreciated.
Is that like the pumpkin head, the witch face?
Yeah.
Is it a skeleton? Is that the other one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one for all of you watching at home, who are not watching at home, I'm holding it up and showing Ben. But yeah, it's...
I can see it, but everyone else can't.
Yeah, it is awesome.
That's cool.
I do like the kind of not in the sense of it. Oh, it's just cool because nobody likes it. I do genuinely like it as a film.
Yeah,
I'm past that. I'm past that kind of just liking things because nobody likes it. But yeah,
they did nod to that in. Is it Halloween Kills or Ends?
Yes, yeah, I think it was Ends. I think, with the guys in the house, and the two gay guys, and then the little kids knocking on the door, and they're all dressed like the 3 characters.
Yeah, I remember there's like a merry-go-round scene, and they're all.
Oh yeah, that there as well. Yeah, maybe I don't know.
I've only watched the new ones once, like when they all came out.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But
they might be the only ones I've seen at the cinema, actually, of the series.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll be happy to know. I think this Halloween we'll be watching that one, the third one.
Oh, cool.
Because I think, obviously, we'll do this one now, and then in September, which we will do sequel September, we're going to be doing the second Halloween film. So by the time Halloween comes around in October, we'll be doing Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which I'm looking forward to because I haven't seen that one. So.
It's the Season of the Witch, yes. Scary. It's not actually like a super scary film, I don't think, but it's just so much fun. There's loads to pick apart, but there is with any horror film, really, isn't there? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's it's one of those really where it's just, for me, it's a bit of a comfort film.
I'll just run through the rest of the franchise because we've picked a few of them out. So obviously this Halloween, then we got Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. There's a theme going on here.
Yeah, let's get his name in there because nobody watched the third one.
Halloween H2O, 20 years later.
Halloween Water.
And Halloween Resurrection. And then you've also got just Halloween on its own, which is the 2007 Rob Zombie remake. And then in 2009, Rob Zombie did Halloween 2. And then you got the 3 newer ones, which is, again, Halloween just on its own in 2018. And then you had Halloween Kills in 2021. And then Halloween Ends in 2022. So that's a total of 13 films in the franchise.
And John Carpenter is just cashing those checks for the for the music at least and the original characters. I think it's just so cool that he's just opted out.
Yeah, so he only directed this one, the original, and the last 3, is that right? Did he direct the last 3?
No, just the first and the second.
Did he not have anything to do with
just the music.
Oh, okay.
I think he did some original music maybe for the last one, but that was it. Yeah, just and that.
Oh, okay.
For me, that's amazing. Yeah, I love the fact that he's just he's kind of comfortable with what he's managed to do with his career and doesn't really want anybody else interfering with his creative vision. So it's just like, right, I'm going to do music. And
because I think he was quite adamant he didn't want to do any after the first one, like he didn't want it, and then for whatever reason he came back just to write and produce, but
Money.
he didn't want to. Well, yeah,
probably. When you're successful, it's hard, isn't it? To
Okay, right. Is there anything else you want to add before we jump into the spoilers and run through the plot?
I don't think so. I think we've covered all of the things that we would normally cover at the beginning of a film. I think it's like 1 hour 31 minutes, which is really funny. It's like that 1 minute away from being the perfect time. So that was it. That was the only thing that I kind of, and I was going to ask you about the music thing, but we did. So no, let's rock and roll. Let's get into the film.
Cool. All right.
Spoiler warning.
Okay, right. So, on Halloween night in 1963, in the suburban town of Haddonfield, Illinois, 6-year-old Michael Myers stabs his teenage sister Judith to death with a chef's knife.
Not Chef from South Park's knife.
What do you think of this opening scene? Like, you get the credits with the pumpkin there and the whole build up to then.
That looks so good, doesn't it? It looks
little
really
mini Myers.
Good. Yeah, the pumpkin at the beginning. I think like somebody had said about the colour palette, blue and black and burnt orange being the colour palette. And like how he kind of tried to use that in other films because it just works so well, and obviously it kind of, depending on how you light a film, it can cover a lot of things if you're working on a low budget film. But I think it just works perfectly. The credits, the the economy of music. I think it's not just necessarily the music choice, it's the economy of it. It's just the sparseness of the movie, and then straight into that point of view. It's economy of space, economy of music. It's striking visuals. I mean, what do you think? I think it's one of the best starts or opens to a film, really, that we've seen so far since we've started doing the pod.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, really, really effective. Because straight off the bat, you get the main theme tune, and then straight into young Michael Myers. They waste no time in the first killing. Yeah. And that whole time, you got the little score behind him. You know, you see him walking up the stairs, grabbing a knife, like doodaloo, you know, going up the stairs. And I think, I mean, I've already got a bit of trivia. I said I've got loads, but this opening point of view sequence, that took 2 days to film.
Right. I suppose we're being quite new technology, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, watching it, I think that whole entire sequence was filmed in one shot. Like, it was all from start to finish when you see Michael going up the stairs, through the front door, through the kitchen, up the stairs to Judith's bedroom, and then stabs her. That's all kind of one take.
It's amazing, isn't it? We can read so much into things. And I was watching it, like, with certainly was at the beginning with like a fine tooth. Watching it with a fine tooth comb, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, the boyfriend briefly puts a mask on. And I was just like, is that the reason why he wears a mask?
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, the problem probably is there is no reason for the mask other than like production reasons, like just so different people can be stand-ins and it's easy to kind of have them there and you know, easy to pose and move like this. It's very but then I was like, oh, is it because of this? And then I was thinking, I'm getting caught up in creating things that aren't there to kind of make my own version of Halloween. Do you know what I mean? Like how characters who don't mean anything in this film suddenly very, very important in other films. Yeah. And it's like, no, we always meant it to be that. Yeah.
It's funny as well, like whilst he's stabbing Judith, you know, he's looking at her, and then he completely turns to look at the knife whilst he's stabbing. Like the camera, or him, point of view turns away to just look at the knife, look at the action while stabbing.
I think
and look back.
That
I mean, I think that's and it's such a like kid thing to do because he is 6 years old, and you think, yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
exactly. I think it does. It ties in with him having no reason for doing what he's doing. Yeah, it isn't linked to any, and that's why it doesn't make sense for me later on to have like, oh well, because Laurie's related to him and da 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 da. Right? No. He literally does these things, and that's what's so scary about this film compared to maybe some of the others, is there is no reason. He's there. There's nothing you can do. There's no logic. There's no reason. There's no kind of thought that's gone into it. He's doing it because he's doing it, and that's really scary. Yeah, that's the most scary thing ever because it isn't explained.
Yeah,
like we want to say someone's a monster, don't we? We want to say this person is a monster, they're evil. It's much more, because then we can say, well, they're not like us because we're not monsters, we're not evil, we'll put them over there. But if we just say, like, they did it because they did it and there is no reason for it, then that's not a million miles away from anyone doing anything because they can for no reason. So, like, for me, that's what, that looking at the knife and kind of just the blank expression on his face when the camera's looking at him at the end when his mum and dad come home, when he's in the little clown costume. And I hadn't clocked it. I was like, oh, okay, Jamie Lloyd. I'd forgotten.
So, on October the 30th, 1978, Michael's psychiatrist, Dr. Samuel Loomis, and his colleague, Nurse Marion Chambers, drive to Smith's Grove Sanitarium, where Michael has been incarcerated, to escort Michael to court for a hearing. Loomis hopes that Michael will be imprisoned for life, but discovers that Michael has escaped and steals the car. Yeah, someone taught him to drive, obviously.
Well, this is it. I had to look up how does Michael Myers know how to drive. And apparently
they did talk about it, didn't they?
He'd been watching him when he was he was watching Loomis when Loomis was driving him to hearings back and forth.
Ah.
So he's a smart kid, because it took me ages to pass my driving test and I was useless. Like, to just watch somebody like silently take you on maybe one drive a year, let's say. Conservative estimate of one drive a year. He's learnt how to drive. I'm not having that. I'm sorry, I'm not having that. This isn't believable.
They did say that, didn't they, when Loomis was chatting to the guy that works in the hospital, saying how he drove away. He was saying, oh, well, he was driving pretty good when he left here yesterday,
Yeah, it's like, how else could he get there? Because
the he can't drive.
He couldn't fly, could he? Or
somehow.
Or like a run for hundreds of miles or whatever. Because that would be ridiculous. In this film, as we know from this whole series of films, everything in it is grounded in reality.
I was trying to do a bit of maths as well, because on the way there, Loomis was saying that Michael hasn't spoken a word in 15 years, which would mean he would be about 21 years old if he was, 6 years old.
And I think with the new
when he went,
the new film follows the same timeline, so that's why he's in his like 60s or whatever in the latest one, and just kind of wheezing.
Should be 61, I think, in the 2018.
So it's like the one where the latest one, the Halloween Ends, where he's just like wheezing as Corey beats him up and like makes him, slaps him around the face and humiliates him, and people watching it just going, but Michael Myers, just feeling sad. It's like, I don't think that was the intention, really, was it, to make the core audience feel sad?
Yeah. So the next day, on Halloween, after having killed a mechanic for his coveralls on the way to Haddonfield, Michael sees high school student Laurie Strode drop off a key at the long abandoned Myers house that her father is trying to sell. Laurie notices Michael stalking her throughout the day, but her friends Annie Brackett and Linda Vanderklok, that's an odd name, dismiss her concerns.
I like the dialogue with the girls, the friends, all the way through. I think it's really just a sort of nonsense that you talk. There's really realistic nonsense that you talk with friends when you just shuddering away as you walk into somewhere, like real sort of like pat on the back, really, for the late Debra Hill for that one, because I think that's very realistic. It's very hard, isn't it, for someone to write that and have it come across as realistic and not corny. And the friends are actually all quite good in their different dynamics, aren't they?
I did notice a little error in this bit when the girls are walking home. It must have been shot in different sequences, because I've noticed that at one point, it's completely dry outside, and then it'll be wet, so assuming it's probably rained at some point, and then it'll be dry again.
Okay.
So
yeah, and again,
that's all on the same walk home.
That's low budget guerrilla filmmaking, isn't it? It's like, just throw some leaves on it. Freddy Krueger, get over here, throw some leaves on it. What did you call me? Yeah.
One thing I've not understood is how Michael kind of disappears so quickly, because there's like 3 scenes.
There's a funny film, isn't there, to be made of him just like jumping behind bushes and falling down drains and hiding behind cars and stuff, and like just being really awkward, because to move that quickly and not he'd have to be really sort of.
Oh, she's looking away. Quick, run.
Yeah, just like little legs going really fast.
Well, like the first one is when Laurie looks out the window when she was in her school classroom, and then the teacher asks her something, and then, because he's with the car as well, he's stood next to the car, she turns away for literally like 5-10 seconds, looks back, and him and the car is just gone. So
he's just done like a Homer Simpson and sort of backed into a hedge. I think that's the most memorable shot in the whole film, actually.
By the classroom.
Yeah, I think I've seen that spoofed a few times, which is always a sign, I think, that it's memorable. But it is an iconic kind of thing because it's that kind of just being stalked in a place where you are supposed to be safe. That for me is the, if you were showing like a 10-second clip of Halloween, that would be in there as the one of the kind of indicators of what the film's going to be like. Also, that he doesn't care that he's out in broad daylight. So many films from around that era and before that, literally just people hiding around corners. Michael Myers is literally stood there during form period at school. Yeah. He's got up early. He stood there dressed in a really weird combination of clothing in the middle of the day.
Yeah, the other one is when they're walking home from school and they see him literally stood right in front of him when he's next to the bush, and Laurie's like, oh, it's that guy again, and then he just steps behind the bush and you can legit you can see gaps in that hedge, so you would see him walk away, and like they go up to it and he's just he's gone. He's
like running down, just puffing in pants. So if they'd have used a 60-odd-year-old bloke in the first one, then you probably would have heard him puffing in pants.
Yeah. The other one, this one's probably like the most weirdest, is when he's standing in the garden with like the bed sheets that hanging on the washing line.
Yeah.
And like she doesn't even look away from him. Like she is 100% staring at him through the window, and he stood there. The camera moves away and it looks at her, and she's still looking at him. Camera goes back and he's gone. So through that whole time, she didn't look away, but he still vanished.
He's doing his washing.
Yeah.
So many good memes have come out of that, like day after Halloween, and he's like, he's got other things on the line. But yeah, I think so. But yeah, you're right. It's very, everything's very deliberate and slow. Like,
is there supposed to be like a supernatural kind of feeling to him?
Well, I don't think
we find out he's not easy to kill.
Yeah, true. In this, I don't think there is. I think as we go through the series, they try out so many different supernatural things. Because what ultimately what it is, if you're making 10 films or so about somebody, you have to have a reason why they don't die, and it becomes harder and harder for the audience to disconnect and say, oh, no, you probably survived that truck running him over or whatever it is, and then you just get him back up. So there has to become something fantastical. And then you've got about 20 people all doing their own different takes on it, and it gets sillier and sillier and sillier. Even like followed exactly the same thing with Jason, really. We've just got weird and wonderful reasons that he can't be killed because we have to bring him back. But we also have to end this film with some sort of resolution. So, like, I don't think there's any supernatural things in it, other than the fact is it's unexplained, which in itself is supernatural. Like, there's a lot of like, why does he kill? Because he can. How does he keep evading a capture? And how does he do? Because he can. We don't know, and it's okay. Like film writers, it's okay. Screenwriters, it's okay. We don't have to know. We don't have. It doesn't have to be like a demon or something. He can just be, who knows.
Yeah. So Loomis arrives in Haddonfield and he finds that Judith Myers' tombstone is missing from the cemetery, furthering Loomis's suspicion that Michael is in Haddonfield. He meets with Annie's father, Sheriff Lee Brackett, to warn him about Michael. And I think this is the point where we find that the is it the DIY store has been broken into, or is it a Halloween shop? Yeah. The alarm has gone off in the shop, and the hardware store, I think it was. Yeah,
everywhere's decorated for Halloween, so I know what you mean.
And the sheriff says that they stole a Halloween mask, some rope, and some knives. He's like, oh, these damn kids.
Yeah, God.
Always stealing this rope and knives.
You know what kids are like, they love rope. Oh, Dad, can I have some rope for Christmas?
Found it quite funny as well, like when they're talking, you just see Michael literally drive right behind. I think it's when Loomis is chatting to the sheriff, he drives literally right behind him.
Because it's so familiar, it's like you can imagine like a spoof of it. Loads of times, like you could just imagine Michael with his arm outside of the window, just playing some tunes and just like bobbing his head or whatever. And then I'm thinking, is that from a scary movie? Is that from like a Wayans Brothers thing? Is that is that from like am I imagining things that I've seen in little clips? Because when something becomes so iconic, you can. I know we use the word iconic a lot, but we do cover a lot of films that are like really do capture the period of time and are just absolute head and shoulders above other films within the same genre. They do become. You do laugh at things like the chestburster scene. I think we both found it funnier than we'd expected to. Because you can't replicate the first time somebody saw something. Like people used to pass out in the cinema in the 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff, and like the things that we would find really laughable now. Yeah, and it's just and again things that maybe you and I found really scary. I imagine people in their sort of teens now would just be like, "Oh, come on, seen worse than that on YouTube or whatever." I actually forgot how much you see Michael in this film. When I was thinking about it, it was like, you don't really see him much until towards the end. For somebody called The Shape.
You think about it, actually. In most of the scenes, he is there. He's just lurking in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether him just driving right behind you or...
Well, you make a good point, because in my head it's a film where they use lighting to cover up a lot of things, and so he can loom and lurk in the background. But you're right, you do see him a lot more than
through the windows and stuff. Yeah.
So what are you doing in there? What's going on? Just out for a bit of killing. Anybody interested?
Loomis and Sheriff Brackett investigate Michael's house, where they find a dead, partially eaten dog in the house. Loomis explains that in the 15 years he has known Michael, he has come to believe that he is pure evil. Brackett is doubtful of the danger, but goes to patrol the streets whilst Loomis waits outside the house, expecting Michael to return.
Number one, he's ate a dog.
What did you... I was gonna say, anytime there's a dog in a horror film, I immediately think of you.
Honestly, it was trauma getting through the first John Wick, but no. But I love John Wick. But what made me laugh about this was later on the dog is barking and knows what's going on and is growling and barking. I think it's because it's that guy who ate a dog. Like, guys, I'm not safe. Do something. Like the dog. God. So I don't know if there's some sort of thing where all dogs I wonder if dogs pop up in any of the other films. I can't remember, and they're all like on to Michael before everybody else, because it's like, did you hear it? He ate a dog. We got to be careful, guys. But yeah, it's. I've lost all sympathy for this serial killer after that.
So that evening, Laurie babysits Tommy Doyle, while Annie babysits Lindsay Wallace across the street. Michael follows them, spying on Annie and killing the Wallace's dog.
Son of a bitch.
And I've got in my notes as well. I've got another dog death. How you holding up, Matt?
I think what's happening is you're just choosing films deliberately. Where every film... Oh, man. No. But yeah, it's... It's funny as well, because as we were saying, like, she's babysitting this character and they're babysitting the guy. All these characters that are not important, and they're just there. All of a sudden... You fast forward all these years, all these different things. Suddenly, really important characters with very important parts to play in these. It's like they're not, like, they're just there. Like, it just makes me laugh. It's like, you're going to grow up and be very important. You're going to grow up and be Paul Rudd, or you're going to grow up and be Anthony Michael Hall, and have a really like, these are just really weird things to think when you're watching this film. But yeah, dogs. Come on, Michael, do better.
So, did you notice that the scary film that Tommy's watching on the TV, that is The Thing from Another World?
Yes.
And obviously, John Carpenter went on to remake The Thing.
Yeah, and almost completely replicate the opening to it as well, with the burning thing, on the screen, which I don't reckon they did with a plastic bag in the original, but plastic bags were even invented. But yeah, I did spot that. That was pretty cool. I think maybe in one of the later sequels, I think even maybe the latest one, they're watching that in the film as well. They're watching that. Wow. Well, I think when what's he called? The guy that nobody likes. So Corey. Corey's babysitting. I think that horrible child that takes a header. I think they're watching that film as well. Which is one of the most unbelievable things about the thing that you would get any kid to sit down, any like kid under 10 to sit down and watch a black and white film. It's highly unbelievable.
So Tommy sees Michael from the window and thinks that he is the boogeyman, but Laurie does not believe him. Annie later takes Lindsay over to the Doyle house to spend the night so she can pick up her boyfriend Paul. When she gets back into the car, Michael appears from the back seat and strangles her to death.
Yep. I've forgotten that. I'd completely forgotten that scene. That's quite... they stay with that a long while.
What's that, the car scene?
Yeah, it's quite a long, choking scene. Like it's like we need to see the whole thing.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. She...
Reminded me like a Mafia hit.
Yeah, she goes to get in the car, but then she realises it's locked and she ain't got the keys. So she goes back and gets the keys, and then she just gets in the car without realising, like she didn't unlock it. And then she's like, and then he just appears from the back. I was like, that is absolutely something I would do.
What, to get the key or kill somebody by sitting by
Go to open a door, it's locked, get the keys, and then just walk through it and it's just unlocked. And they're just not even realise until like 5 minutes later. Like, wait a minute.
It's quite a striking scene, that actually. There's a few like death scenes that I'd forgotten about how well made they were and how creative they were with the space, whether it was a car or. And without jumping ahead too much while we're talking about different deaths, I think like Annie's death, PJ Souls' death, reminded me of Scream. Like the economy of space and the telephone call and all that, and I was like, oh, okay, I'd forgotten how well made this film was, how creative it is.
Well, Scream take huge influence from this as well, because they even show it on TV and talk about it a lot, don't they? Halloween, in Scream. So I mean, it sounds silly, but I'd forgotten like the amount of phone calls that are in the film. Like, obviously. Through this and Scream, we've gone from sort of landlines to big cordless mobiles from Drew Barrymore to like all the way through to sort of like smartphones and bits and bobs. So it's we've tracked telecommunication all the way through these horror films. Alexander Graham Bell would have been proud. So soon after, Linda and her boyfriend Bob arrive at the Wallace house to find it empty. After having sex, Bob goes downstairs to get a beer, where Michael kills him by pinning him to the wall with a kitchen knife.
Oops.
Michael then poses as Bob in a ghost costume and confronts Linda, who teases him to no effect. Annoyed, she calls Laurie to find out what's happened to Annie, but Michael strangles her to death with the phone cord, whilst Laurie listens on the other end, thinking that it's a joke.
That's a good scene. That's a really good. I reckon that's the scene that they've tried to replicate so many times throughout the series. It's just it's got so much going on in that whole scene.
Well, you can't really replicate it now because we don't have corded phones anymore.
That's true.
You'll have to use something else.
Yeah, just let me go and get my charger cable. But it's a bit too expensive. Somebody be more upset about damaging their phone now than, like, say, them getting hurt. But it's like, you've cracked my screen, Michael, you dick. Yeah. Like, do you know how much that's going to cost? I've nearly paid it off. Whereas, like, those days, at least you could have just give somebody a good whack with the actual phone receiver. So,
yeah. It wouldn't be an 80s slasher without a sex scene as well.
No. There's it's funny because actually I think this is quite cleverly done in that sense. It's not total exploitation. There is a little tiny bit of nudity in the film, but it's more like the girls are just as into it as the boys in the film, which I think is again a testament to Debra Hill. She probably took out loads of stuff that John Carpenter and friends had written down as ideas and just been like, no, young women do not do that. Like, come on. I can just imagine that. And it makes you think, doesn't it, how much better some other films would have been if they'd had that input.
Yeah.
Rather than just what men who have very little experience with women think that women do.
It's very much a horror trope where if you either show your boobs or have sex, then it's highly likely that you're definitely gonna die.
Yeah, and
I think both the girls do, don't they? Annie and Linda. Yeah,
and I think though there's a lot of there's a lot. I think I'm pretty sure John Carpenter had said somewhere that like that's not the takeaway from this film kind of thing. Like that's not an intentional choice, and it's maybe people reading into that certainly over time. And I think Scream probably hasn't helped with that because people take whatever Randy says in Scream as like complete gospel because he's such a really good movie geek who knows his stuff. But again, it might be that a lot of the stuff that just happens in this film is just because, like, it's not like, oh, let's make Laurie really sweet and virginal. That's the word. I was going to say virginal's probably like somewhere from Virginia. I'm sure that wasn't the thought. It was probably just, let's keep her moving and not have somebody attached to her, like a boyfriend who can slow it down or help. Let's actually have her as the like kind of one of the main characters, if not the main character. I was trying to work out if she was the main character on Michael Myers. I think it's her.
I really like that kill scene. It's probably the best or the most famous kill scene in the whole movie, where Michael pins Bob against the wall. You get that really like unnatural strength where he just picks him up with one hand and just like stakes him.
They must have got the guy on set who was the strongest person to be Michael on that day, because if it's like, I don't think Tommy Lee Wallace is a particularly big guy, so it probably wasn't him. I don't know. Maybe it was Nick Castle. I don't know.
So obviously he's been locked up in an asylum and he's not spoken a word since he was 6 years old. So would it be reasonable to presume that maybe he's still kind of got that childish mindset?
Maybe.
Therefore, like, not really understanding what or why he's doing it. He's still kind of...
Oh, yeah. But then again, he's smart enough to learn how to drive.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of that. I think it's just like there's not a lot of thought. It's just all acting on impulse. Yeah, I would say so. And it's like quite... It takes me to the song, you know, like when they're playing Don't Fear the Reaper, and it's like he's just kind of like a Grim Reaper kind of character. He just kind of... You don't think, when you think of the Grim Reaper, you don't think of somebody with like a lot of personality and backstory. you just think of a hood and a scythe, and I think that's kind of that's why Michael Myers is the Shape. I think he's just a thing, isn't he? He's just like a killing machine that kills for no reason.
Yeah. A
bit like Predator, I guess.
Yeah.
But not as
suspicious. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Suspicious of the phone call, Laurie goes to the Wallace house to find her friends' bodies, as well as Judith's headstone in the upstairs bedroom. She flees to the hallway in distress as Michael appears and slashes her arm, causing her to fall over the stairway banister. Barely escaping, Laurie runs back to the Doyle house but finds that she's lost the keys to the front door during the altercation with Michael.
It's all that keys.
I thought it was a bit funny as well, like how she discovers the bodies, like one by one. Like they all seem to like coincidentally make some kind of movement when she's near it. Like she stands next to the wardrobe, and then Bob's body like suddenly like drops down and swings next to her, and then she steps back, and the cupboard door like swings open, and you see Linda inside there. So
we say that Michael's arranged them all perfectly. Yeah. He's like an part-time interior decorator in the asylum. So I'm just going to put one dead body here. I'll put one over here.
He's like Home Aloned it, so when she stands there, everything kind of like happens.
Yeah. Again, there's an argument that that's one of the greatest horror films ever made.
Yeah. So Tommy lets her into the house. Laurie orders Tommy and Lindsay to hide and tries to use the telephone for help, only to find the phone is dead. Michael sneaks in through the window and attacks her again, but she stabs him in the neck with a knitting needle. Thinking he's dead, Laurie staggers upstairs and checks on the children, but Michael approaches to attack her again. She tells the children to hide in the bathroom whilst Laurie hides in the bedroom closet, and Michael finds her and she stabs him in the eye with a coat hanger.
Ouch.
Ouch.
That's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
That's my insight to that. It would probably be hurt. It will probably hurt for that to happen. Write that down.
I like how she's hiding in this like flimsy little like wardrobe, and she just ties a little bit of string around the handle, like that'll stop him.
Yeah, it is quite scary though. Like you say that it can just sort of just smash through it. It's just so useless. Like protecting yourself in something that is very, like you say, flimsy and weak, then that makes it more scary for me, because it's just like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have a score in this bit? Is there much going on? Because I know you get the sound of everything that's happening, but like as he like goes like head first through the wardrobe, I think his head knocks the light bulb, so the lights are flickering, and she's trying to unravel this coat hanger to stab him in the eye. So it's all kind of, everything's happening at once. I can't remember if the score was kind of building up that bit there, but yeah, very, very effective. That's probably the bit that you think about. I mean, yeah, just looking at the DVD box, that is one of the pictures that's on the back. It's him looking into the wardrobe. Again,
there are little things that you can imagine. The cinematography is so good, you could imagine them as little posters or things for a poster, or paintings, like whether it's Michael kind of looking into the school, or like you said, the part you just said then, or Michael outside the house at the beginning. Even the Halloween title and the pumpkin. It's one thing it's done. It's made a lot of artists. It's given a lot of artists lots of kind of ideas, and you know, the amount of fan art and T-shirts and posters and cartoons and things like that. It's that colour palette of Dean Cundy that's kind of helped that, and the sort of filters. I think it's great to watch. And again, if we compare it to more modern films, and I know I keep coming back to this nearly every episode, when you watch a modern film and it's dark, it's often so dark you can't see what's going on. Whereas in this film, you see everything that you're supposed to see. Like, it's really, you know, lighting is excellent, and the way the shots are set up are just, you know, just out of this world. I think, again, John Carpenter overseeing the whole thing, it transfers through all these films. He's so good, isn't he, at just kind of sparse music, clear sort of picture of what's going on. But it's very unique. You know, it's a John Carpenter film. I suppose it's the same people that he uses as well a lot of the time, so that probably helps.
Yeah.
But it is great. You're right. There are those moments where you think they're seared on your brain, aren't they? They're really memorable.
Yeah. So she then tells Tommy and Lindsay to go down the street to a neighbour's house to call the police. After they leave, Michael rises once again and approaches the unsuspecting Laurie. Loomis sees the children running from the house and goes to investigate, only to see Michael attempting to strangle Laurie. Laurie snatches Michael's mask off, distracting him as he seeks to put it back on. So yeah, I completely forgot that you see his face in this movie. She actually pulls the mask right off. And
I was like, oh, what version am I watching?
Yeah, I completely forgot that was a thing.
Am I watching the face cut?
Yeah. But that obviously that's not Nick Cannon. What you see there, you see
Nick Castle.
Nick Castle. Yeah. Nick Cannon. He's a rapper, isn't he?
I wasn't going to say anything, and I was trying to think. I think he's married to Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Michael Myers is married to Mariah Carey, which would be pretty amazing. That would be a plot twist.
Well, I mean, you get Busta Rhymes in Halloween Resurrection, so it's possible.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So the Michael you see without his mask is Tony Moran. I got something in the trivia about this that's quite funny.
Yeah, I worked out that there was 5 or 6, but I'm not sure. I know Tommy Lee Wallace was one of them.
Yeah,
because he's my hero.
I think Tony Moran did a lot of the stunts, like the window scene when he falls out the window and stuff. I think that's him. But I think you'll like the trivia that I've got on that bit, why they used him. But so Loomis shoots Michael 6 times, knocking him off the balcony. Laurie asks Loomis if Michael was the boogeyman, to which Loomis confirms. Loomis walks to the balcony and looks down to see that Michael has vanished. A resigned Loomis looks out into the night as Laurie sobs in terror. The end.
Yeah, that's the first time she properly loses it, isn't it? It's like...
And
it carries on over the credits, which I think is quite effective. Like, you can still hear her crying as it's cycling through some of the names.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't pick up on that. Oh, right.
I was like, that's pretty effective. It's like, what's the film that I watched recently? Pearl, where she's laughing and crying, and the director, is it Ty West, and he's like off camera, and she's kind of looking at him for the cue to stop laughing and crying, and like he doesn't. And it just carries on for ages and ages and ages, and you can kind of see her face drop. Is it Mia Goth? And her face drops, and I was like, oh, that's a really clever and creative ending to a film. This is quite a nice ending. Quite a creative ending as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Donald Pleasence, for me, he's such an odd guy. and he just gets bigger and bigger throughout the series. But like the way he talks to children is so strange. The way he talks to everybody really is so strange. Like,
I always picture him as the villain in James Bond.
Oh yeah. Well, he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
The one with the scar on his eye.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one that is.
Yeah, he's not Gold. Yeah, is he Goldfinger? No.
Is that the one?
I'm not sure. I was just thinking of Goldmember, but no, from yeah, I love all the Bond. I tried to do a big Bond watch along and watch them all the way through with my wife, and she just ended up giving up. And I'm like, we're not watching anymore. I made notes on each of them. I love them, but I can't remember, because I know that some were Telly Savalas. Basically, you had 3 bald baddies, and I can't remember who they were, who was who, but yeah. I know what you mean. And is he the president in Escape from New York as well?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I haven't seen that for a long time.
So let's rate this from 1 to 10. I'll kick it off by saying I'm gonna go ahead and give this a 9 out of 10, and I'm gonna mark it as knitting needles to the neck.
Oof. Knitting needles to the neck.
So
go on. Why 9? That's a big score.
Well, I honestly forgot. I honestly forgot that how good this movie was. I mean, I've seen it loads of times, but like I said, looking at it in detail, Michael is actually in it more than I remembered, and I think maybe because I'm looking at it more critically, I can see background things where you can see him lurking around, and it could be argued that this is maybe the best like OG slasher film there is.
Yeah.
Just because it's so iconic, and a lot of films have kind of taken a lot from this film.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's hard not to give it a top score, but maybe because I've got a sense of like nostalgia, and I've grown up with it so much, and so I'm naturally attached to it a bit more. So everything. I mean, the score, the uneasiness feeling, you know, that you get from it, the emotionless mask that he has, you know, the boogeyman. I think we can all agree that it's a top tier classic slasher. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Knitting needles to the neck.
Oof! Ow! Bang! Ow! Yeah. So wow. Okay. So I'm gonna give it 8. Okay. So we're gonna disagree a little bit, tiny bit. It's not for me super rewatchable. I see Halloween more as like a pick and mix of films that I watch bits of here and there, depending on whether they're available on TV, price, all different reasons. The first one is clearly a masterpiece, clearly the best in terms of film, from a filmmaking point of view. For me, it's not super rewatchable, but for cultural significance, after so much, you know, just ignoring everything else from the series, for cultural significance, significance within the genre, then that's why I've kind of gone for, you know, the economy of making it, and the sort of the way, the creativity and the music, like you say, all those things, totally agree with all of them. But I think a 9 for me is maybe like a film that I love, or is, you know, and I don't say I necessarily love this Halloween, but I can say, a bit like I said with Alien last week, very similar in that sense, genre defining or subgenre defining, creating films. So yeah, that's mine. So both good scores.
Yeah, very good. All right.
But what do I know? I'll give Halloween 3 like 10 out of 10. Give Jason X like 7 or an 8.
All right. So should we jump into some trivia?
Yes, I've only got one, so let's do it. I want to listen to yours.
Trivia. Oh yeah.
All right. Do you want to go first with your one?
Okay, so mine is a bit weird. So
good.
Something you don't probably know about me is I'm a massive fan, or was a massive fan, of Saved by the Bell. Okay.
Okay. I
love Saved by the Bell when I was a kid. Used to take them on VHS and seen every episode. So Laurie, that's got nothing to do with this. No. So Laurie says she'd rather go out with Ben Tramer. Okay, and then like there's a bit of a thing, oh, don't tell him I like him, and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So Bennett Tramer is a friend of John Carpenter. I've done my research because I recognise the name from the credits of Saved by the Bell.
Right. Okay.
And he was a director of Saved by the Bell TV series. So
wow.
Bennett Tramer, or Ben Tramer as he's called here, friend of John Carpenter, Saved by the Bell director. So they both went on and did great things, is what I'm saying. Both John Carpenter and Bennett Tramer, and that's my. I would defy anyone to have shared that bit of trivia on any podcast or any channel. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely correct. I don't think anyone else would
if everybody who loves Saved by the Bell gives us a like on YouTube, or gives us 5 stars on Spotify just because I mentioned Saved by the Bell. Hopefully it doesn't have the opposite effect and get thumbs down or unsubscribe.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, beat that.
All right, okay. I've got, what have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 bits of trivia. They're quite long. So this is the one I was saying about Tony Moran. So Tony Moran played the role of Michael Myers in Halloween for the unmasking scene, thus making him the face of Michael Myers. He got the role because producer Debra Hill felt that he looked angelic and innocent, and that when the mask came off, John Carpenter also agreeing that Nick didn't have that beauty the way Tony did. And so Michael was to look exposed and scared as he was using this mask with a blank expression to cover his true emotions and appear emotionless, his true face being able to portray his feelings.
Interesting. Yeah, I get that. Like, you know, sometimes when you're a kid or you work with children and they like, you're talking to them and they hide their face away, and you know, we've all done it at some point, or people put the hoodies up right around their faces. So yeah, it ties in. It makes sense with what he's been through, the trauma. I mean, obviously he's done the traumatic. He's caused trauma, is what I'm saying, but he's also been through trauma himself. So yeah, that's interesting.
Bit of a slap in the face for Nick to find this out, though, that he didn't have a angelic face.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, it's like, well, I thought I was beautiful. Yeah, I was like a little choir boy. Yeah, I guess you beat me already with your first bit of trivia.
So John Carpenter considered the hiring of Jamie Lee Curtis as the ultimate tribute to Sir Alfred Hitchcock, who had given her mother, Janet Leigh, legendary status in Psycho from 1960. For the same reason, Dr. Sam Loomis was named after Sam Loomis from Psycho.
Yeah.
During the same period, Universal Studios and director Richard Franklin were trying to enroll Jamie Lee in the new production of Psycho 2 that was in 1983.
Underrated film. Psycho 2 is a good film. But yeah, you can see that, can't you? You can see sort of the cross-pollination of this, and it's just moving the genre on, isn't it? It's just moving things on. It's just a little bit more violent, a little bit more scary.
Would you consider Psycho a slasher film? I know there's only really like that one main scene where you see.
It depends how would you define it? But just like if there is actual slashing in it, so yeah. I guess if that's what we're saying, if we're just going off, does somebody slash somebody with a knife, then yes.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of. It's interesting. She's just like royalty, isn't she? She's like Hollywood royalty, or like scary film royalty, and the fact that it's only been recognised recently. Like that she had to kind of go away from it because it was just kind of like seen as like a dirty little genre that no value, and now people are starting to appreciate horror a lot more.
So because of the film's tight budget, the production designer Tommy Lee Wallace had to use whatever he had at his disposal, or had to buy materials really cheaply. When he created the Michael Myers mask, he made two versions. The first was a smiling clown mask that they put frizzy red hair on. They tested it out and it appeared very demented and creepy. The other mask was a 1975 Captain Kirk mask that was purchased in a costume shop on Hollywood Boulevard for $1.98.
Oh yeah, that's the one I said earlier on. Yeah. I didn't know the first part though.
Yeah, it had eyebrows and sideburns ripped off. The face was painted a bluish white. The hair was spray painted brown, and the eyes were opened up more. After testing out the mask, the crew decided that it was much more creepy, because it was emotionless.
And I know that this is a weird one, that William Shatner sued them for the use of his likeness, his face, on the mask that they used. But they settled out of court with him. But they didn't have to, because logic dictates, and what a lot of people said afterwards, a lot of people like in law and things said that, well, it wasn't his likeness, it was the likeness of James T. Kirk, so it wasn't his like kind of he didn't have any rights to that, so he wouldn't have won. But they gave him money anyway, just to settle out of court, just because he was pissed off.
Oh wow!
But yeah, it's funny because in is it Baby Driver where they use the Mike Myers masks because they couldn't get hold of Michael Myers ones because they weren't allowed to use them. So yeah, there's a weird Canadian Mike Myers, Michael Myers, James T. Kirk, William Shatner thing going on, all because Tommy Lee Wallace bought that one mask. So weird.
So the story is based on an experience John Carpenter had in college touring a psychiatric hospital. Carpenter met a child who stared at him, and he said with a look of evil, and it terrified him. So that's what this was based on, really.
Cool. That works.
Yeah. The original script was titled The Babysitter Murders. It had the events take place over the space of several days, but it was a budgetary decision to change the script to have everything happen on the same night. Doing this reduced the number of costume changes and locations required, and it was decided that Halloween, the scariest night of the year, was the perfect night for this to happen.
So I think, if they had gone with that other name, it would kind of seem a bit more sleazier and a bit more like a kind of like a slumber party massacre.
Yeah.
Kind of. Having said that, yeah, it would have done it. I think it would have been a different film in a strange way, because sometimes you just get an idea of a film from the name, and it just makes it seem like it's kind of a bit more of an exploitation film, doesn't it, with that name?
Yeah. So this is a funny little trivia fact. The stabbing sounds of the knife, the sound effects that they used with the stabbing with the knife, is actually the sound of them stabbing a watermelon.
Realistic. That's almost like a radio play, isn't it? Well, they said that they thought about it a lot as the radio play, that they wanted a scare every 10 minutes. So like to then go into that and kind of do the sort of the sound creation a bit like you would if you were doing a radio play, like walking over gravel or that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. Oh, thanks, man.
So I got one last one. I saved this till last because I thought you might like this the most. John Carpenter showed Halloween to an executive before it was finished without the music. The executive didn't find it to be scary at all. However, after the film was released, she watched it again and changed her mind, an indication of how much Carpenter's score adds to the film's atmosphere. Producer Irving Yablans, I think that's how you say it, confirmed this, stating that while watching the movie in theatre, audience members would regularly block their ears with their hands because the sound and music were so scary.
Oh, how strange! How strange! That is weird. Like this executive also turned down the Beatles. No, but yeah, it elevates the film, doesn't it? The music, 100%. But every time he does. Every film he does, the music improves it.
It's like we said earlier. I literally can't think of a film that has a better, more effective score than this.
Yeah, and linking the character to a particular theme. Yeah, and that's why maybe one of the things that makes it a step up from an exploitation film is that kind of little bit of detail and thought and time rather than just throwing blood and guts at the camera. So yeah, having said that, I know I was saying before about the name and all that, like I actually quite enjoy films like certainly like Slumber Party Massacre 2 is really good. Like I quite like those sort of films. They have their place, especially if they've got like an element of fun to them or like a bit of irony or silly music or something like that. Whereas I think Halloween is a little bit more of on on a higher level, isn't it? On a higher plane.
You know, I just thought of something. I've compared Friday the 13th to this a couple of times throughout, just thinking about it. Because you see, like, the POV, like the point of view, you know, they've kind of adapted that in Friday the 13th from this. And the fact that it is a slasher, you know, they've taken that. I think they've taken a lot of it from. For Halloween, actually using, like, a day of the year, you could argue that Friday the 13th have done that as well, that they've done it on a specific day.
Yeah, I think a lot. It's a bit like, you know, you get something and it's very successful, whether it's like Last House on the Left, and then all of a sudden it's like the next film that comes out is like Third House on the Right, or you know, like it's that kind
Nightmare
of
on Elm Street.
Yeah. Well, yeah, same. But you've got like
same thing.
You've got like sort of My Bloody Valentine and what's the one with the big kebab stick through the mouth? New Year, new one. Oh, I'm trying to think what it's called. Is it literally called Happy New Year? But like, I think once this was successful with that, it makes perfect sense because you can release them around that time as well. Is it Happy New Year to me? That's what it is. Yeah. So I think the first one jumping on that bandwagon was Friday the 13th in a way, and I think this is a much better, well-made film. That's almost like the exploitation version of this in a lot of ways, where they've just gone, let's get out there and make a film as quick as we can, and cash in on it. And just like there's a million Star Wars ripoffs from the sort of early 80s, late 70s, just like there's a million Alien ripoffs. Some of them are perfectly good and really enjoyable and fun, and some of them are really well made. Just, you know, it just kind of muddies it all a little bit because they all get lumped in together, don't they?
So, as always, we'll end this with a good game.
Oh, by the way, before anybody, so just remembered, it's happy birthday to me. Happy New Year. And somebody will be like, why didn't you remember that? All I could think of was the front cover, but yeah, it's a good film. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I want to play a game.
This week we've got the kill count game, and I've been waiting for a slasher to play this one. So Halloween has got a total of 5 kills.
Okay.
So I'm going to compare this movie to other horrors of the same nature, and you got to tell me which movie has the highest kill count. So up first we've got Alien. So higher or lower than 5?
Shit.
We literally watched it. Was this our last episode?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. If I'm not going to get this one, I'm not going to get any of them, am I? So higher than low. Higher. Or the same. Higher.
Do you want to take a guess at how many kills Alien has?
7?
Close. It was 6. So yeah, it was higher.
Okay.
With 6 kills.
Okay. But no Jonesy. Jonesy was fine.
So second we've got Friday the 13th.
Okay. I'm going to say, right, it could be one of two things. It could have been them when they were making it, they were like, we'll have even more, we'll throw more blood at it, we'll go really over the top. Or they were literally making quite a low budget film where it's quite difficult to kill people, therefore I'm going to go lower.
Really? Well, you are greatly mistaken because it has got twice the amount than this one. It's got 10 kills.
Do you know, that was my first thought. My first thought was they were going to be like, well, how many people did they kill in Halloween? Let's double it.
Yeah.
Damn.
10 kills.
I should have stuck with my original thought. What a fool.
Up next, we've got Scream.
Okay. There's more in Scream.
Yeah. You are right. There is 7 kills in Scream.
Oh, okay. I thought there might have been more.
So, next one, number 4, we've got A Nightmare on Elm Street.
More.
No, you're wrong. They've got
bother.
less. Yeah, there's only 4 kills in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that as well. I thought there was a lot more than 4.
I imagine as they go through the series, there's probably a lot more.
Yeah, well, I think every film they kind of amp it up a bit more, don't they? But yeah, the first one, 4. Number 5, we have Child's Play.
Less?
Nope.
Damn.
Nope, we got 6 kills.
Oh. I'm terrible at this game.
So,
terrible at every game, let's be honest.
This last one's a bit of a joke.
Okay.
But Dawn of the Dead.
More.
Want to take a wild guess on how many kills there are?
50?
Oh, a lot more than that.
100?
More?
All on-screen deaths?
Yeah.
200?
You think how many are in that shopping mall that they plough down at the end?
I know, but yeah. It might have just been a flesh wound. It might have been okay. I don't know.
176.
176. That was my next guess.
That exact amount.
Yeah, I was thinking, is it 176 or 177? I was counting them off in my head.
Yep, that is it. That is the game for this week.
And I won, in a way.
Yeah.
In the sense of we entertained people, hopefully, and and I didn't get them all wrong, so I'll take that as a victory.
So before we wrap up, there's only one thing I've got to add on, and that is July's camping poll pick is now over, and the results are in.
Is it Carry On Camping?
In third place, we had The Burning with only 2 votes. There's only 2 people that wanted that. In second place, I'm sorry to say, is Sleepaway Camp. I know you really wanted to do that one.
Angela. Yeah.
That one only got 6 votes. But in first place, and I think it's no surprise that for the camping poll pick, Friday the 13th won with 15 votes. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody who voted.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
And it's just disappointing that they voted incorrectly. No, it's fine.
I'm sure we'll get around to doing it at some point.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
Just impatient.
But yeah, Friday the 13th, we'll be doing that one at the end of the month.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I look forward to that. That'd be good. We've got lots of fun films coming up.
It's been a while since I've seen that one. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think again, probably like this, I've probably watched. I tend to do a rewatch of all of them. Actually, I do follow the order. That's a lie. I do follow the order when it comes to Friday the 13th. I don't with Halloween. I don't know why that is.
I get really confused with that one. I always muck it up. But yeah. Because there's so many of them. How many is there? Like 12 maybe? Oh, I've got them there actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 12. Including the remake of Freddy vs. Jason.
Remake's rubbish.
Yeah.
But if you like it, it's okay to like a movie, as they say. It's okay to like a movie.
Yeah.
I like Halloween 3, what can we say?
Just not that one.
Yeah. I'm unlikely to watch the remake of Friday the 13th again.
Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, that's all. So,
and thank you to the people who keep leaving comments, and there are loads of people who have followed us on YouTube, and you've got thousands of people on Facebook, which is amazing. There's loads of people, and I know I've just been like tweeting just as myself, but talking lots about the pod on it, and lots of people kind of their podcasts following our podcasts and things like that. So yeah, exciting. It's fun. So thank you.
Yeah, if people also, if you like what like the pod, please go ahead and subscribe on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen to it, because that really helps us get noticed.
Where podcasts are made. Yeah, we're all
everywhere.
No, what is it? We're all. What is it? Yeah, we're all good podcasts are found. Podcatchers. A podcatcher. Yeah, I catch my pods.
Yeah. So yeah, if that really helps us out, because it helps the pod grow.
More vids.
That is all for this week.
Oh, thanks, man. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. If you've liked today's episode, be sure to go and like us on Facebook. That's where we'll announce our next episodes, as well as each month doing a themed poll pick where you get to choose what you want us to watch. We like to hear from you, so please feel free to leave us a comment or a message, or you could even email us at allthingshorror666@gmail.com. That's all for us today, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
I'll do some scary movie.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?